everybody, it's Katie from The Reading Habit. This is my very first video of this channel, and I'm actually really excited to talk about some books today. I started my Instagram account, thereadinghabit.co, this summer, wanting to embrace my hobby as a reader and try to meet new people, read some different things, and it has just been a really fun experience. I ended 2025 having read 54 books, which for me is a lot. I know a lot of people read a lot more, but for me, this is huge. And I just thought for my very first video, what better way to finish off 2025 than to talk about my top 25 reads? I am just a little bit about me as a reader. I read a lot of different genres. So I was coming off of being kind of a thriller horror girly, and I have read some of those this year, but my main consumption was romantasy, just regular fantasy, and even a little bit of just literary fiction. And I was really surprised by my favorites this year because I expected a little bit more of the thriller horror, and I was definitely shocked at some of the genres that I found when I did the top five. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to count down my top 25 books of 2025. Okay, so coming in at 25 is a little bit of a horror, I would say, not too scary. It is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix. I discovered him a few years ago, and he's one of my favorite horror writers. He's really funny, but this book definitely did not hit the funny bone for me. Um, this book is about girls in the 70s who find themselves in a pregnancy that is a surprise, unwanted. They're teenagers, and so their parents send them off to a house for girls to give birth, and then the baby gets given away in adoption, and then the girls go home as if nothing happened. So, what I loved about this book is it really focused on the reality of women in the 70s, specifically young girls, and just kind of the way society viewed young girls versus the men who also helped, get them in those situations and how their lives were affected. And so, yes, there's witchcraft. Yes, there's a few disturbing images in there, but really they're reaching for that witchcraft, trying to find power and autonomy in a world where there really isn't any for young girls. So, I love Grady Hendrix. He did a lot of research. This is based off of, true situations that did happen in the 1970s and 80s. And so I would think this is definitely like a genre crosser if you're not a horror person, but you do like a little bit of witchcraft. This would be a great choice for you. Number 24 is a thriller slash, again, some people call it a horror, but I don't. It's Ask for Andrea by Noelle Illy, I think is how you say her name. This was a really fun read. It was all over Bookstagram, all over Book Talk as a great choice for somebody who likes a little bit of a ghost, but needs a little bit more from their thriller than the typical formula. So this book is told from multiple perspectives. You have three women, Megan, Brescia, and Sky, and they all have been murdered by the same man. And so they're trying to keep it from happening again. And so you see their stories, the way that they each respond to their own death. And it's just really a refreshing perspective. Is definitely one that there's a lot of plot twists in it. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And it's also not a long read. So definitely recommend Ask for Andrea, number 24. Coming in at number 23 is another thriller slash mystery. It's The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. This is another one that was very popular over Book Talk and was just a different, refreshing experience for me. As somebody who's read a ton of thrillers, I just kind of got burnt out on them, if I'm going to be honest. That's why I started reading horror in the first place. But basically, you have the daughter of a man who was accused of murdering his whole family, and so the time frame goes back and forth between 1975, when the murder supposedly took place, and then current day Olivia, who is a ghostwriter for a living. Her father um, actually hires her to ghostwrite his book explaining what really happened. And so you see they're kind of trying to solve the mystery the whole time. You're wondering if he actually did it. And there's also that family tension, family trauma, generational just ickiness that was really great and intriguing. So this coming in at number 23, Ghost Rider by Julie Clark. Highly recommend. Number 22. This came as a shock to me, as well as possibly many of you, as much as I love the Fourth Wing Empyrean series. Onyx Storm was a little low on my list this year, coming in at number 22, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the third installment of the Empyrean series, and it's definitely a middle book. I think I liked it more than a lot of people. I think a lot of people read it and weren't very happy with it. There is a lot of fun, a lot of world building, lots of new characters. And all the dragons, y'all. I'm a sucker for a dragon. I love a story about a dragon. But I didn't hate it. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. I could tell that it was a little bit rushed, and so I look forward to reading number 4. And I look forward to finding out more information specifically about Andarna and what she is capable of, one of Violet's dragons. So, Onyx Storm, number 21. Nope, number 22. 22. Number 21. This is a horror. This is one of my favorite horrors that I read this year. This is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. I love a ghost story. Love a ghost story. As far as the kind of horror that I like to read, not really into body horror. Um, Man, I love a ghost. I love a haunting. And so Diavola takes that concept, puts it in Italy. Who wouldn't love that? And again, looking at the drama that is within a family. So you have your protagonist, Anna, and she hates going to her family functions. She feels that everybody's always judging her. Uh, she just goes to try to survive. She doesn't really fit in. And so, as they are on vacation, on a family vacation in this beautiful remote villa, creepy things start to happen. It involves this demonish looking woman with very ugly, rotted yellow hair. Very, very creepy, and highly recommend if you like a good spooky book. So, coming in at number 21, that is Diavola. So, now let's dive into our top 20. Number 20 is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. I think it's Ciccarelli. This is one of two in a duology. Uh, this is book one of the Crimson Moth series. And I know in earlier publications or in other countries, this book is also just called Crimson Moth, but I bought it as Heartless Hunter. I really loved this book. Sometimes with fantasy and romantasy, you start to get it just gets a little redundant. And so I really liked this idea of a vigilante magic user. Rune, she is a witch. And then she and the head of the guard, Gideon Sharp, they're both trying to catch each other, which is really interesting. So you kind of have this enemies to lovers situation that always am really intrigued by. I read both this one and the second one, Rebel Witch, this year, and so Rebel Witch didn't make my top 25, not because not because I didn't like it. I really loved it, but sometimes I feel like duologies meld together a little bit for me, and when I have to pick one of two, I'm always going to pick the one that is like building the world and introducing the characters. So I really loved Heartless Hunter. It's also I would say pretty YA friendly. There's minimal spice in there, nothing too crazy. So Heartless Hunter, pick it up. It's great. Number 19. This is maybe one of my favorite horror books of all time. This is another Grady Hendrix, and this is called Horror Store. Y'all, this is the weirdest thing I've ever read. But it was so much fun. So, as you can see, this book is laid out very similarly to like an IKEA catalog. Okay. And you can even see like the little prices on there. Very cute. This was recommended to me by an independent bookstore owner at Patchouli Joe's in Denton, Texas. And so they said, if you want something fun and new and you're a little bit bored with your horror scene, you need to pick up Horror Store. So I want to show you just like a couple of the weird pages in there. So as you go into the different chapters, the intro to the chapter will feature like a piece of furniture and a little blurb about it. And as you go, it starts to get creepier and creepier. For example, you have this nice little treadmill with spikes on it. And the premise is that you have three employees that have to stay late because every morning when they start in the store, they notice things are out of place. There's these weird stains and spills, and they think someone's vandalizing. And so, through the investigation, they realize that the store has been built on ground of like an old prison with a torturous guard, and there's so creepy, so weird. Lots of just fun humor in there, but I found myself reading it and then thinking about it, and I couldn't shut up about it. So, number 19, Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. Okay, this next one I do not own, and I'm going to fix it as soon as possible because it is a beautiful book. And this is one of two nonfiction books that made my top 25 this year, and that is the book Awake by Jen Hatmaker. So if you have been just a Christian in America, B, a women's conference, things like that, you might be familiar with Jen Hatmaker. She was a very popular Christian author who wrote a lot for women and spoke at a lot of women's conferences. And then when she came out as pro LGBTQ, she kind of got canceled. And so a lot of her books stopped being sold in Christian bookstores, especially as she kind of doubled down and started featuring more diverse voices on her podcast. She was shunned a little bit by the Christian media community. Since then, she has gone through a divorce where her husband did cheat on her. And so this was her first book that is a full memoir of just her as a human being going through that divorce, going through the challenges of still clinging to her faith, but reshaping what that faith looked like, her relationship with church, her relationship with her kids. It was raw and honest and just beautiful. And I loved it so much. I listened to it on audiobook, which is just the best with a memoir. Jen actually reads the book herself. I cannot stop talking about it. Number 18, Awake, Jen Hatmaker. And look how beautiful the cover is. It's amazing. It'll look so beautiful on your bookshelf. So you definitely have to pick it up. Number 17 on the list, I just finished this one a few days ago, is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I did a combo of this one where I listened to it a little bit on audio and then finished it just reading the book. And I was so compelled by this book and the story of Haymitch. Um, it is an interesting exercise that Suzanne Collins is doing when we know where everything ends up. So that is kind of the trick to a prequel, is making it interesting and fun and engaging and have there still be some surprises. So I definitely was surprised to read Haymitch as like a very positive, fun-loving, not a drinker at the beginning. And so, um, yeah, it was a lot. I loved that it was a quarter quell, and so there were multiple familiar faces there. Beatty, Wirus, Mags, in the book. If you've read the Hunger Games trilogy, you know who I'm talking about. But so many moments of just heartbreak. And I am not really a book crier, and so I heard everybody who reads this is like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna do all of the things." I didn't, but I definitely felt gutted when I finished it, and I cannot wait for the movie to come out. I just saw the trailer, the casting is awesome. So, Sunrise on the Reaping, number 17. Number 16 is a little bit of a genre bender. I would put this as more literary fiction and not thriller mystery, but it is a mystery. It's called The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Y'all, I love a summer camp story. Love summer camp, missing kid, the tents, the fires, all of it. The setting is 1975. And so you have a camper that goes missing, and she belongs to a family where a kid a long time ago had also gone missing. This is told through multiple perspectives. It's told through a law enforcement officer, through a camp counselor, through the mom. It's just really great. Again, I think I see a pattern in a lot of the books that I'm reading where you have the mystery and then you also have like the family dynamic that adds a whole new layer. And I love a messed up family. So this is a great choice. The God of the Woods, number 16. My number 15 might be controversial. Maybe not. I don't know. I've seen mixed reviews on this one. This is The Favorites by Elaine Fargo. Very important information to know about this book is that this is a retelling of Wuthering Heights. A lot of people have not been talking about that in their reviews, so I just feel like maybe people don't know that. But I taught English. I love Wuthering Heights. It is so weird and messed up and dark, and all of the characters are just terrible people. And so take Wuthering Heights and combine that with like Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding figure skating mess. That is The Favorites. So instead of Heathcliff and Catherine, you have Katerina and Heath. They are figure skaters together for different motivations. Y'all, I'm obsessed with the unreliable narrator in the story. So if you've ever read Wuthering Heights, you know the housekeeper Nellie Dean. She tells all these different perspectives, and you're like, she's the most reliable, but not really. The version of that in this book is Ellis Dean, who is a fellow figure skater who is like a TMZ blogger, and it is so great and hilarious. Um, it definitely takes some liberties from Wuthering Heights, so it's not like a direct retelling, but messy, messy characters, lots of different perspectives. You see it through the lens of like a documentary telling versus the characters, so you kind of don't know who to believe, what to believe. It was just really, really fun read. I have heard that the audiobook of this is incredible. I did not read the audio, I just read the book, but you might want to give the audiobook a try. So that's number 15, The Favorites. Number 14 is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So I waffled back and forth on this one when I first read it on how I felt about it. I started out giving it 4 stars and then 5, and kind of back and forth. I love the characters in this book. Love, love, love the characters in this book. I love the world building in the book. I love the concept. Um, you have Saris, who is a great female main character. I'm very intrigued by her alchemy ability of, manipulating metals and all of those different things. You have Kingfisher, who is very broody. And so my least favorite part of this book is probably a lot of people's favorite part of this book, and that is the spice and their relationship. It's just a lot. There's a lot of like growling, there's a lot of talking about being a mate, and I think that just made me want to skip through it, if I'm just gonna be honest. I love the other characters. There's not a side character really that doesn't matter. And especially since I've read Brimstone since, you see a lot of those side characters that are introduced in this book get a lot more page time and a lot more development. But I just really am excited to see where this series goes. It was a really fun ride. Um, yes, Quicksilver, Callie Hart. Okay, number 13, I do not have as I listened to it on audiobook, but it is a thriller, maybe dips its toe in horror, and that's The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. Simone St. James does a really good job of writing a compelling character story that also is a little creepy, and she loves a haunting just as much as me. So I listened to The Broken Girls over the summer. It's about a boarding house and again has two timelines where you have a person who's trying to decipher and figure out what's going on in this old boarding house that there's construction going on. They find a body as they're demolishing the different things, and then it flashes back to the original friends that lived there in the boarding school and some of the things that they encountered and some of the creepy things that they saw. And it's just a great book about friendship, and just really creepy moments of ghostiness. So I really enjoyed The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. Earlier in the year, I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I have the other one here, but again, when I'm reading a series, there's just nothing that competes with the first one, in my opinion. And I've read a couple of them this year. So I love the vampire element. It's like Vampire Hunger Games almost, where you have Araya as your female main character. and Rain as the male main character. And they're competing for this opportunity to get a gift from a goddess. And this is maybe my first vampire book that I've read since Twilight. I got very burnt out of vampires years ago. And so people just kept recommending this book to me, and it was just a really fun ride. I love the love story between Araya and Rain. I love Mish, Rain's best friend, and I know future books feature Mish a little bit more, and so I'm very excited to read those. So, would definitely recommend Serpent and the Wings of Night. Okay, and then for number 11, this book I do not have a copy of. I checked it out from the library. Is The Familiar by Lee Bardugo. I love this book. Had me in a chokehold when I was reading it. Mostly what I know Lee Bardugo from is a lot of fantasy, kind of darker sci-fi ish things like Six of Crows or Ninth House. This book, it feels more like a historical fiction. It is fantasy. There's the element of magic. You have Lucia, who is a housemaid, and when it's discovered that she has magic, this is in Spain. Her employers want attention and wealth from the king, and so they try to enter her into this competition to be like the king's, I don't know, magical assistant, I guess is a good way to put it. And so you have lots of just political intrigue in the book. Lucy is trying to climb her station as she's a Jewish girl that is kind of hiding her identity in Spain. Um, and then there's a lot of magic and there's a lot of romance as well. But I just really loved that I felt like I was reading multiple different types of books at the same time. So The Familiar, Lee Bardugo, might be my favorite of hers that I've read. It was really, really great. Okay, we are down to the top 10 books of 2025. I've got some thrillers, I've got some fantasy, and I've got some lit fic and even a nonfiction pick in here. So buckle up and get ready. Number 10 is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is my first book that I've read by Alice Feeney. I know she has several. All of the rest of them are now on my TBR. This book was recommended on Bookstagram and Book Talk for the plot twist. And again, I've read a thriller. It is very hard to surprise me, this book, y'all. So you have Mr. and Mrs. Wright, Adam and Amelia, and they won a getaway in Scotland to this like abandoned, cute little chapel house, like Airbnb type situation, and you read from both of their perspectives. You read letters as well. And the theme of rock, paper, scissors involves the traditional wedding gifts. So, not something that I've ever followed, and I could not tell you what they are, but how it's like you celebrate 1 year with, I'm going to make something up, paper, year two with something wooden, or blah 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 blah. So, this book, I was not expecting half of the things that happened here. So pick it up. Do yourself a favor. Rock, paper, scissors. Alice Feeney has a new book coming out in January, and I'm definitely going to be picking that up immediately. So you got to do it. Number 9 is a book that I put off for a really long time. And then finally, several people on Bookstagram were like, stop doing what you're doing. You have to read this. If you are a fantasy person, you have to start with Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson. Um, Brandon Sanderson has intimidated me for a while just because of the amount of books that are on the bookshelf at the bookstore by him. And so I don't know. I was putting it off for a really long time. And this is more of a high fantasy choice. But everyone told me if you're going to read a Brandon Sanderson, you need to start with Mistborn, and I loved it. I loved it. It scratched the itch for, like, the Star Wars in me, where you have, like, the young hidden hero with powers and the mentor who, finds you and provides you, like, a found family. It's one of my favorite tropes, is found family, and then you're fighting evil. It's just great. So you have Vin, who is the female protagonist of the story, and she has magical abilities involving manipulating the elements. And so Kelsier finds her. He's another character in the book, and he is older, wiser, has more of an agenda of trying to take down the Lord Ruler, who is the political leader of the time and is scary and awful and also very magical. So, this is one, I think there's 3 in the original trilogy, and then there's 3 more. So, I have the second one. I haven't read it, but I loved Mistborn. I feel like I wanna read it again. I'm gonna be honest, it took me back to when I first read Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, as well as Throne of Glass, and just the really fun intrigue of that adventure, with the female character who's coming into her own and discovering her abilities and herself and her confidence for the first time. So, loved Mistborn. Number 9, pick it up. Number 8, y'all, I'm gonna be saying how much I love all of these books because now we're in the top ones. Number 8 is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab does not do any wrong. Like she is an automatic pick it up and read it for me. This is her newest book, and again, I'm open to a vampire story these days, and this did not disappoint. So you have multiple timelines, multiple perspectives, all female, talking about being turned into a vampire. Again, that idea of female empowerment and autonomy and being able to control your own destiny and not have it decided for you is really the driving force of this book. And then, in an interesting way, what happens when that power is bestowed upon you without your consent. So, beautiful writing. Her writing style is just magical. I know that sounds a little juvenile to describe it that way, but it's the only way I know how. So magical. This is not the first Schwab that you're going to see on my list, spoiler, but was just a great book. I read it around Halloween. It was a little spooky vampire vibes, but you could read it in a year. And I wouldn't even call it, it's not in my fantasy pile. I actually put it in my lit fic pile because that's how lovely the writing is and the storytelling. And I think even if you're not a fantasy person, you would really enjoy it if you enjoy stories about women and female friendships and relationships. So pick it up. Number 7. This is another automatic author read for me. I cannot wait for the second book to come out. This is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This, y'all, it's so beautiful. I love growing up. I loved anything about King Arthur and like medieval times, the Knights of the Round Table. And so this book is just beautiful, where you have this idea of women who are um, they're dreamers and they're used to foretell different things. And so your main character, Sybil, she's actually known as Six in the book because they're supposed to be like nameless, identityless. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. So there is a love story, but it's very secondary. And let me tell you, this book has the best secondary character that you will find. The gargoyle, Bartholomew, protect him at all costs. That's all I have to say. Is if Bartholomew gets hurt, we riot. And I mean it with all of my heart. So, just a really lovely story. Again, they're having to go and find these different items to try to bring back the balance of um, power in the universe. There's the whole idea of a king and just that dynamic of power as well, power structure. But I just thought it was so beautiful. And y'all, like, look at the cover. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. So that is my number 6 pick. Apparently, I can't count because this was definitely my number 7. So, oopsies. One more for before we get to the top 5. We have my number 6 pick, and that is My Friends by Frederick Bachman. This was one of our book club books that we read this year, and it was my first time to read this author. this is another one that I'm just obsessed with. The storytelling in this book, what we discussed in our club was that it has everything. Like Stefan from SNL, this book has everything. Um, the idea of friendship across time and art and love. The writing style of Bachman is just so funny. Like there's literally multiple chapters where they refer to um, this kid farting in a painting and just laughing about it. And normally I'm not like, that's not my vibe, but I just treasure the friendships that are captured through this book and knowing where things end up with certain characters because again you kind of go back and forth on a timeline. If this is driven through the lens of an orphan who is an artist as well, who is seeking her own identity through just the pursuit of how much she loves this painting and being able to find out who the painting is actually about and their stories. And so this was so, so beautiful. Loved it so much. Number 6, My Friends by Frederick Bachman. Top 5 time. The most difficult decision I've made, maybe in 2025, is narrowing down my 5 favorite books of the year. So, coming in hot, number 5 is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm obsessed with Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's another. I will read anything she writes. This book was beautiful. As a little kid, I was obsessed with space. In Texas, we have the NASA Center in Houston. I've been there multiple times. I've eaten the astronaut ice cream. Love me some space. And this book is about a female astronaut in the 70s and her process of becoming an astronaut, the people that she's with. It goes back and forth. Like the beginning of the book starts with a disaster that Joan, our main character, is helping with and trying to bring a shuttle home before everyone in the shuttle dies. And so then as it backtracks, you get to meet the people that she's talking to and trying to save, and just her pursuit of her own identity through that process. So, so good. This is another that most, I would say 99% of people would say they wept reading this book. I'm not a book crier, but if I was, I would have cried. It's a beautiful story. So good. Atmosphere. Pick it up. Number 4 is my other nonfiction pick, and I can't stop thinking about this book. And it is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. So if you either have kids or were a kid in the early 2000s, you will remember the show iCarly, Sam and Cat, and the actress that plays Sam in those shows. She is the writer of this book. It is a memoir of her growing up as a child actress and the relationship with her mom. Oh man, it is complicated and raw and honest. And her mom um, is abusing her with the way that she promotes her eating disorder and the way that she shoves Jeanette into this career and forces her to do all of these different things. And so I just really found it so utterly refreshing and honest. There were several things that she struggled with that, even though I'm not a child actress, it hit on some emotional points for me, and some complicated relationships in my life, and just really rang home for me. So I loved this book. Even if you're not a nonfiction person, you got to pick it up. Number 3 is my other V.E. Schwab, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This was another book club pick, and this was the first book of Schwab's that I have read, and it is gorgeous. The protagonist is Adeline, and she makes a deal with the devil that involves her living forever but never being remembered. And it was such an emotional journey to think through how that would impact you for no one to know who you are, or for you to spend some time with someone and the second you walk away, they don't remember ever meeting you, and how lonely that would be. I was so compelled by her relationship with Henry in this book. I was definitely compelled by her dynamic with the devil, who we refer to as Luke in the book. Um, Such a beautiful story, even just the setting of France and Europe, and again, her language is just magical as a writer. So love this book. Definitely my number three. Can't stop yapping about it. So my top 2 books, both are basically like a hug in a book, which I think speaks to what I needed in 2025 is I needed some cozy in my life. I needed just some warmth and love and goodness. And so that's what these 2 books offer. My number 2 is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I had no idea what this book was going to be about. I saw it all over Barnes and Noble. There was like a poster, and I was going on a cruise. And so I thought, well, the ocean. This is oceany. Look at the ocean. Let me pick it up. What a delight. This book told from multiple perspectives, one of which is an octopus named Marcellus who I love and I am obsessed with. And I have a sticker on my laptop that is Marcellus in the mop bin. I just love him so much. And it tells the story of loss and grief, but picking yourself back up and putting the pieces together. And it's just heart-wrenching in, like, the best, most possible way. I just felt like this book was a hug for my soul, so definitely recommend it. And now, my very last book of 2025, my number 1 book, the definition of a book hug, is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is essential reading for people who want to be good human beings. It is a fantasy. It is beautiful. You have the concept being that the main character, Linus, he's basically a CPS worker if there was a CPS for like magical beings and helping monitor magical children who are too dangerous to be unmonitored, I guess. And so he works for this agency and they send him to do a very dangerous assignment where you have this house run by a man named Arthur. And the most dangerous level 5 registered magical kids are there at this like orphanage. And so he's supposed to report back as to how it's going, if Arthur's doing a good job. One of the children is the Antichrist. Um, his name is Lucy. I love him so much. And it's just a beautiful story. I've read the second one, such a beautiful story. Um, I just will keep consuming anything in this universe that I possibly can. The messages about acceptance and tolerance and what it means to engage and love people that are different than yourself is so important in 2025. And so I just really would recommend this book to anyone that is a human being. If you have feelings or you want them, you should read this book. So read it. It's my favorite. Love it. Thank you so much for joining me on, again, my very first video for this channel. I hope that you got some good book recommendations as we enter into 2026. If you want to continue following along with me in my reading journey, you can do that here on this channel, as well as my Instagram, which is at thereadinghabit.co, as well as my TikTok account, which is again thereadinghabit.co. I hope to make a lot more content here in the future to talk about books that I'm reading, things that I recommend, and just overall fun reader challenges. So until next time, happy reading.